So, have you watched my typing sessions before?
I've watched a few of them, yeah.
Okay. And how long have you known about typology?
I found out last December.
Okay. Uh, can you talk to me a little bit about your the kind of media you consume when you're not learning anything from it?
I've always struggled with media. Like if I watch Netflix, there's only like a few shows which I was able to watch all the way through. Um, Often I'll put on a show, and within the first 20 minutes, if I'm not finding it enjoyable, I'll turn it off. I'll do something else. So in the past, it's been Vikings, the 100. Um, what else? The Last Kingdom.
That Vikings
Um,
show was pretty brutal.
it's good. Have you seen the new? There's a new one that's coming out. It's the same. It's just called something else. It's like a It's the next lineage, basically.
No, I haven't, but I did watch the first few episodes of that Vikings show until when they went and they killed all the priests in this church, and I was just like, oh my god, this is too brutal. And then there's like this rape scene, and so I was like, okay, I can't handle this shit.
That's the same as when I was watching Game of Thrones. I didn't get into Game of Thrones for that reason. It was just too much for me.
Okay, so, but is that the kind of like historical medieval ages kind of stuff you like that, say, versus spaceships and ray guns?
No, anything that's just out of the ordinary, I guess. So like the 100, when that's like future.
Yeah, I watched that
Um,
show too. I
yeah,
got I forgot what you. It's like I thought you were talking about something else, but now I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I watched that too. That was good.
yeah. So anything which like has a really good plot and um, it is just out of this world, basically. It has to be out of the ordinary.
Okay.
Yeah. So I
Um.
watched Naruto Shippuden actually. I used to watch that when I was younger.
hmm,
Yeah.
Okay. Can you talk to me about activities you do that do not involve consuming media?
I go to the gym 5 days a week, usually. Sometimes four, but usually around that
And do
amount.
you go there for exercise?
Bit of both, socializing and exercise. I used to be like a bodybuilder, so I used to take it very seriously.
I see. So you're trying to make yourself more attractive, like a cut, yeah.
Yeah, when I was 16, I me and my brother used to do push-ups. Like this was when we were watching Naruto Shippuden, so we always like were engrossed by this idea of like being muscular, and um, so we used to just do push-ups and stuff. And I realized quite young that I had a good propensity of capability of building muscle quite fast. So
So,
I
so
basically
you think your body is responsive to directionalities you push on it? Like if you go, I'm gonna lose 5 pounds, and then you're gonna lose 5 pounds, and if you want to build muscle, you can bring it up, take it down. Like, is you think your
yeah,
body's especially responsive to that stuff, or what?
yeah, particularly like my brother, for instance, he's practicing for a marathon right now, and he is a wood designer basically, and he didn't do any formal like exercise, and so he's quite skinny naturally. And after like 3 months of running, like he started growing like quad muscles like really fast. So I think we just have genetically a propensity to build muscle rather easily. So then, because I was good at that and I wasn't really good at anything else, I was like, oh, we'll give this a go.
Okay. Um, so it's a strange thing to say as an activity because I see it so much entirely as like work, that you
Yeah.
it would be miserable to go to the gym. So, but I guess you enjoy the actual process of lifting the weights up, or what?
No, not really.
Does
Um,
it burn? You feel the burn?
the, the pump, yeah, like Arnold Schwarzenegger said, I get the pump when I go to the gym. I get the pump at the home. I'm in heaven. you see that part? Anyway, so basically, the pump does make a huge difference for enjoyment.
So what does that mean exactly?
Essentially, when you put muscle under tension, it under like a form of resistance, after after decent long, after a certain time, your muscle will fill up with blood. It's called nitric oxide, which is basically the muscles are filling up with blood because there's resistance targeted towards that.
So it's trying to direct your body's trying to direct more oxygen to those muscles so they can perform more. Is that why it's doing this?
Yeah, that's exactly right. In fact, when athletes are trying to perform at a high level, it's better for them to perform in a cooler climate because their bodies are able to stay stronger. You're stronger in a cooler environment because of that.
Because your body has to expend less energy doing thermoregulation. Because you're automatically heating yourself up when you exercise, right? So that's probably why. Do you sweat a lot?
Not really, no.
And do you find yourself get dehydrated very, very easily or no?
Yeah. Because I'm like 6'4", so I require like at bare minimum like 5 liters of water a day. Even right now, I've got myself a shaker cup.
Okay, so you're pretty reliable or pretty consistent about keeping liquids on you to consume.
I have to, like, my mouth will go dry, particularly if I have caffeine, because caffeine's a dehydrator.
Yeah, my mouth is always dry because I'm always drinking so much coffee.
Yeah.
I wonder, it's like, if it really dehydrated you, how could you? Why wouldn't I be dead by now? It's mostly water, right? How could it be that dehydrating?
Yeah. I mean, well, if we can last 7 days without water, I think there comes to a point that there's a hormone, aldosterone, I think it's called, and basically it is it's like a thermostat for your body to figure out how much water, like a water balance basically. And so I think as your body has less water in it, it will then, like with anything, try and survive at all costs. So it will basically go to, like from the first day, it might require more water. The second day, it requires less water. And then as your energy levels decrease as well, in accordance to the lack of water, basically.
I see. Okay, so it's kind of like a biological break to prevent catastrophic failure, to slow you down and prevent catastrophic failure.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have good cardiovascular, or do you ignore that in exchange for working on your muscles?
I used to. So at the moment, seeing as I don't really bodybuild competitively anymore, I just try and maintain a muscular body and try and increase my cardiovascular system as well. Because I was noting that when I would go through basically periods of a bulk, which is essentially a period where you're eating a surplus of calories in order to put on muscle, I would walk upstairs and I noticed my cardiovascular system was just terrible. Just by walking upstairs, I'm like, this is not healthy. I don't want to take this any further. So that's when I sort of transitioned to a more health conscious approach.
Do you think it impacted your overall how you feel in general?
Not directly, indirectly. I mean, bodybuilding, if essentially is about doing as little movement as possible whilst trying to increase size through providing resistance towards the muscle and then recovering from the basically minor tears in the muscles in an attempt to get bigger. So it's like you basically will sit at home eating food, go to the gym, hang out with your friends, because that's the only time you can really hang out with friends, go home, eat more food, then eat again before you go to bed. And then maybe even during the middle of the night, you might need to get a shakedown as well. I mean, that's the extreme, but
And do you do that because you know that you're lifting enough weights that your body's going to convert it all to muscle and not to fat, or what?
yeah, well, as your body mass increases, you require more energy. So someone who's, say, 5 foot and a female may only weigh 50 kilos, therefore they may only need 1,500 calories to maintain their body weight. Someone like me who's 6'4", 105 kilos, requires such a large increase of calories to really push your body weight up. So in order to increase size or increase weight by that matter, you need a surplus of calories. So for me, maintenance might be 3,500 calories, and a surplus may need to be 4,200 calories.
Okay, hold on a second. I'm looking up what 105 kilograms is in pounds.
Oh yes, 235 pounds.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm 6'4", about 190 now. Does that mean that you think you have a higher need for calories to maintain your existing body weight than me? Since we're both 6'4"?
Yeah, well, there's three factors that come to play. There's um, metabolic rate, which is, or your basal metabolic rate, which is, I guess, genetics. Then uh, there's um, uh, another form, which is basically the amount of movement which you do during the day. So if you're someone that has activity levels, and then there is obviously weight that's involved as well. So there's multiple components, but it's largely genetic. You can have a variance of say 1,000 calories, and one person's the exact same weight and height as the other, but one person, for whatever reason, regardless of if they do the same amount of output, requires more calories.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. I've been trying to tell people this for a long time now.
Yeah,
Their
it
stupid
actually,
dietary concerns are stupid. They don't need
you
to
know
go
what?
on a diet. It's like, stop doing those things.
Yeah, yeah. It's people. It's just really it's ignorance, really.
Mm. Okay, so do you have any creative outlets like writing, dancing, painting, drawing, taking photographs, posting on social media, anything like that?
I drew from a very young age. I haven't really been doing that lately. I like to think that my creative um, and endeavors have sort of switched to bodybuilding. And most people will think, well, bodybuilding is a physical endeavor, but really, um, a lot of bodybuilders will claim that it's an artistic expression because you're using your body as a canvas. The weights are a paintbrush as such,
Mm.
and the food is maybe paint. And
I have noted that the word aesthetics is used a lot in bodybuilding community.
it, that's right, yeah, aesthetics, yeah. So that's basically it's just an achievement of an overall like pleasing physique.
Okay, cool. Uh, let's see. Can you tell me about your sleep habits? How many hours of sleep you need a night, and what happens if you don't get that many?
So last night I got 6 hours sleep. Usually I'll get seven bare minimum, um, and usually I'll go to bed around 10:30 to 11. Wake up around 6, um, and but that can be pushed back due to just my yeah lack of due diligence. I guess just not really looking out for time.
Okay. So let's say you had to be somewhere at 8 in the morning. Would you rather get up at 6 in the morning and get less sleep but have more, be able to get ready to go more slowly? Or get up at 7 in the morning and have more sleep but have to rush out of the house?
Get up at 7, 100%.
Okay.
Give me the least time possible.
Do you have a morning hot beverage you consume, like tea or coffee?
Coffee,
Okay. Do you
black.
put black coffee?
Yeah.
You don't put even any cream at all?
Yeah.
Wow. Have you always drank it like that?
Yeah. became a coffee connoisseur. I used to drink it with milk, and then I switched to almond milk because I was lactose intolerant, and then switched to black because I actually like the actual taste of the coffee bean. And yeah, now I get like proper Brazilian coffee bean.
Okay, cool. I use a lot of powdered creamer, which I don't think really has any lactose in it. Regardless, can you think of other food items that you are fussy or particular about how you have it served to you? Maybe like, well, I never get yeah item at restaurants because they always do it wrong.
Yeah, I eat the same foods most week, most weeks, sorry. Um, but I'm probably the least complaint. Like, I don't complain about food whatsoever. Really, I'm very simple in that respect.
Okay, so if you're gonna go out to eat with somebody else, what's the likelihood that they're gonna choose the restaurant? Is it getting close to 100%?
No, it'd be probably 50. No, it'd probably be 70-30, because I usually just try to eat somewhat healthy. As in, I don't see a point. I can enjoy a chicken and rice meal almost just as much as a burger meal. Yeah, one is contributing towards a goal which I like, and the other is deterring from that goal.
Hmm. So if somebody suggested that you go out to eat at Tub of Bacon Grease, you say, no, I don't eat there.
Yeah, tell me, go get fucked.
Okay. Do you eat a lot of vegetables?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you have a favorite vegetable?
uh, probably carrot. I just do
Carrots.
carrot.
Huh. So you're accustomed to eating them raw?
No, not really. Very rarely. I buy a packet like frozen vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
This is my meal. 90% of every lunch that I have is chicken, rice, mixed vegetables, which is frozen, put into a Tupperware container, put it in the microwave, put on for a minute and a half, and then eaten. Oh, I usually put peanut butter on it though. It's like a satay. Makes it into a satay with sriracha sauce.
So are you including pre-cooked but need to be microwaved chicken?
Yeah, I cook it in the oven. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So you're accessing a central pot of leftovers when you're doing that.
I call it meal prepping, but most people would call it, yeah, leftovers.
Okay. Cool. So can you tell me about a time from your childhood when you learned a lesson because you got in trouble, and it's a specific lesson from a specific time?
Yeah, when I was around uh, between 4 and 6, it would have been around 4 actually. I stole a teddy bear from a news agency.
A teddy
And,
bear from a news agency?
yeah, well, my sister was in a stroller, and I put a teddy bear in, because in Australia we've got like similar to what you'd probably find at like an airport, where you've got like there's like Australian koalas and like teddy bear versions. I put one in the bottom of the stroller, and then it wasn't until my mum like put it in the back of the car that she's found it, and she said, "Harry, where'd you get this?" I said, "I took it." And then she went, she's like, "You can never steal from shops. We must buy them."
Oh, that is a very specific and important lesson to learn. And did you correct her and say, well, obviously, it is not necessary for us to buy them because look, I've got this teddy bear and we didn't spend any money.
Yeah, in other words, I said, "I took it. Like, what am I meant to do? It's right there. I wanted it, so I took it."
Hmm. Okay. And did you generalize from that lesson that you have to watch out for being too opportunistic, or do you think that was not consistent with how you were even then, or is it inconsistent with how you are now, or not, or something else?
Um, I'm not sure what the discipline was, but I did learn from that moment that there are consequences to actions, and I like to think that I think twice, if not three times, before doing something which may end up putting me in a bad position.
Okay. Do you find yourself presented with tempting opportunities of that sort very often?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so you're kind of constantly policing yourself against exploiting opportunities.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's like a habit. Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry, you said it's like what?
Well, I definitely find that there is an adult version of me and there's a child version, and the adult version tells me off constantly. You shouldn't do that because there'll be this consequence. Remember what happened last time?
Okay. Well, I want to know what you're busting yourself about when you're saying that. Is it like you can't do that because you're going to hurt their feelings? Is it you can't do that because people are going to think you're awkward? Or what?
No, I hurt their feelings.
Hurt
So
their feelings. Okay.
yeah, I don't mind telling right now, but I'm seeing a girl, dating a girl rather, and um, I've had op- other opportunities to go on dates with another girl or several other girls, and I have to think, well, I'm at a stage where I believe that it has to be some form of um, uh, what's the word I'm looking for?
Loyalty?
Loyalty, yeah. And I would think, how would I feel if she did this to me? Oh, I wouldn't really like that much, so I better not do it to her.
If you found out that she had done that, would you stop hanging out with her right away?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Um, so, do you have a vision of yourself long term as somebody who gets married and has kids, or do you not have that planned out at all, or something else?
I've thought about it. I've got a couple of niece and nephews now, and I thoroughly enjoy spending time with them. I I guess I'm open to the possibility of having kids, but I would say that it would be in a distant future, so probably 15 years away, not anytime soon.
Now, most people in Australia live relatively close to the coast. Do you do any ocean activities?
No, I hate the water.
Okay. Have
I
you ever?
can't swim that's deeper than if I can't see the bottom, if it's dirty, I can't swim in it.
Is it because it makes you feel anxiety, or is it because you actually can't swim?
No, it gives me anxiety. I don't know what's underneath it.
Have you ever seen a shark?
Uh, no, but I went to a place called Stradbroke, and it's an island off the north coast of Queensland, and the shark alarms go off almost seemingly every hour. And
Okay, so either that particular trip or any other trip that you can. Well, let's go with that trip. Can you tell me the most memorable moment you had on that trip?
my dad, I hate camping. My dad doesn't mind it. He actually enjoys putting the tents together, believe it or not. But I absolutely despise that. I remember we set up camp at a camping site, and yeah, there was torrential rain, and our tents got absolutely swamped with water. And I remember waking up, my clothes were all wet.
Oh my god, that must have been miserable. That sounds fucking miserable.
I never have gone camping again. I refuse to. I go glamping, which is
Yeah.
caravan camp, but I will never go camping again.
Well,
I
it's
might.
it's kind of like the time that I'd gone ocean fishing with my dad on a few occasions, but then one time we went out and it was really choppy. I was seasick the whole fucking day. They take off like early in the morning from the shore. You're stuck on that boat until they come back late in the afternoon, and I was puking the whole day. And I said I'm never getting on one of these things again.
It only takes one.
Okay, so let me ask you some questions about your values. Let's first ask about what values you expect yourself to uphold with other people, and then I'll ask the other way around what you expect other people to uphold with you. So, do you expect yourself more? Do you have more of a? Do you have a higher expectation of your own performance regarding your originality or regarding your correctness?
Probably correctness. Yeah.
Okay. How about correctness or relevance?
Relevance.
Okay. How about relevance or social grace?
Social grace.
All right. How about social grace or um, quality time with Precious?
Quality time with precious.
Okay. Quality time with Precious or reliable?
Quality time with precious.
Okay. Quality time with Precious or impactful?
Impactful.
Impactful or efficient?
Impactful.
Okay. Do you think that you are more of a dick than people think or less of a dick than people think?
More of a dick.
Do you think you are more helpful than people think or less helpful than people think?
Less helpful.
Okay, now let's talk about what you expect other people to do in terms of what values they uphold in the world. Are you going to lose respect for somebody more because they are unreliable with you or because they are inaccurate in what they say to you?
Inaccurate.
Okay. How about if they are rude to you or they make your job more difficult by being inefficient? Disrespectful or disrespectful of your time by being inefficient?
Um, Disrespectful.
Okay. Do you feel in general that people have a an amount of respect for you commensurate with that which you deserve, whether that be very high, very low, or somewhere in between?
Um, Somewhere in between, probably.
Okay. All right. Rachel, can I ask him a few questions here while I refill my coffee?
Sure.
Could you ask him about whether he sees people in terms of circles of closeness or like first close, second close, third close? In terms of like some people say, oh, well, this is my inner circle, this is my outer circle. I don't really
Okay.
distinguish between how close they are between the individuals within those circles.
Okay. Hello.
Hi.
So I'm gonna ask you about your inner circles. So your closest friends or your closest relations to you. What do they look like?
So I've got my family and my extended family. So like my brother's wives' family, and my sister's. Sorry, my brother's. Yeah, I guess the immediate family. Then I have my close friends, which I consider well, they'd be my cousins and a couple other friends in that circle. Then I have people that I guess are more like acquaintances from the gym, which I guess would be the next degree of closeness to me. And then I have work colleagues, which I would consider the same. as that. And then I have associates, which I know, people I know of, I guess.
Okay. What are some things that you look for in your friendships, in your coworkers? Yeah, friendships and coworkers, and then I guess romantic relationships too.
I think a big one for me is gratitude. Like, I definitely try to go out of my way to help a lot of my close friends and family. And yeah, as long as they are appreciative of that and in some way or another return that, then I guess that's a give and take sort of relationship, which I prefer. And I think trust, loyalty as well is a big one. There is a lot of people that may be considered my friends, and they might consider me a close friend, but I don't trust them as much as I would trust some other of my friends. And the same would go for my significant other. I think I had to really establish trust in order to see a future.
How about for coworkers? What do you value in someone that you work with?
That they're relaxed, that they respect my time and give me autonomy to do the work in which my role requires, and that I don't ever hang out with them on a one-on-one basis, so I keep work quite separate to my personal life. So I just expect a general consensus of privateness, I guess.
Okay, so someone who is who looks over your shoulder is not appreciated.
Oh, not at all. Yeah, I block on like social medias and that. I block them from seeing my stories. I don't want them to have an insight on my life.
That's smart, because a lot of people they go onto social media and then they judge people off of the social media when they don't really know the inside information, and it can cause a lot of drama.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And I realized that in my first job, which I worked for a larger corporation, and with that, people talk a lot, and now moving into more of a niche corporation, it meant that I had to be a lot more cautious with what I do and say, because the circle is smaller. Therefore, the information will travel further. I mean, everyone will know.
Do you use social media?
Off and on, I'll go through phases where I'll post, and it'll usually be like during the holiday periods where I'm off work and I have more time to spend in those avenues. But when it comes, like, generally, I'll only use it to message people or to to look at other people's lives every now and then, or watch funny memes. That's it.
Yeah, I use it for memes too.
You want me to take back over?
What'd you say?
Do you want me to take back over?
Sure, yeah.
Because this isn't really going to reach over.
Thank you for talking with me.
Thank you, Rachel.
Okay. So, what happened to the camera?
I don't know. I think maybe, did you trip over it? I'm always tripping over wires, so.
Well, there it is. Whatever I did with it, I'm not sure. Okay, so if all good children go to heaven, and only people who go to heaven can meet St. Peter at the pearly gates, what can we conclude about good children and the meeting of St. Peter at the pearly gates?
That only good children will see them?
No.
Is that what you said?
I said, if all good children go to heaven, and only people who go to heaven can see St. Peter at the pearly gates, then we can't really conclude anything about it, because all the people who see St. Peter at the pearly gates might be the ones who go to heaven who aren't the good children.
Right.
Okay, let me try another one of these. If some people from Australia keep great white sharks as pets, and all people who keep great white sharks as pets love the Sydney Opera House, then is it necessarily the case that some Australians love the Sydney Opera House?
I'm sorry, you're going to have to say that again.
If some Australians keep great white sharks as pets, and all people who have great white sharks as pets love the Sydney Opera House, then is it necessarily the case that some Australians love the Sydney Opera House?
No.
Okay, correct. No, that was incorrect. That was incorrect, I think. I think I said all, so I don't know. My memory's I'm a little tore up right now. I've been like going for a while, so I'm a little bit tore up. But let me ask another TI question and see if we can clarify this. Can you tell me today is Monday. Can you tell me what yesterday's tomorrow is?
Saturday.
Yeah. And who is my father's only sister's son's only cousin in relation to me?
Is that cousin on your side of the family?
It's my dad's only sister's only son's only cousin.
Oh, that's your cousin.
Yes, you, right. Okay. Can you tell me possible reasons why the United States should nuke New Zealand?
Because it has no army?
Well, I mean, I guess that's a reason. That's not really so much a reason to nuke them as not a reason not to nuke them.
Yeah, that's true. But I guess if they nuke part of New Zealand, they don't have any. I mean, well, I guess New Zealand's attached to Australia, so we could send nukes to the US. But yeah, retaliation would probably be less, maybe.
Okay. So when you mentioned earlier about how you periodically experience the realization that, oh, I could probably get on that chick, but you have to say, no, self, I'm not going to do that because I'm being loyal to this other chick. So is that always going to be at the gym that you meet these other chicks, or is there someplace else where you're encountering chicks in the world?
Usually social media.
Oh, social media.
Yeah, like on Instagram, I'll get DMs from them. They might reply to a story that I post of me at the gym, and then they're implying that there might be a possibility of meeting up of sorts. And yeah.
Boy.
But what I've realized is girls on Instagram do not look anything like they do in real life. So I have to then go, okay, well, I actually really find the girl that I'm seeing right now very attractive. Therefore, there's a chance that the girl who appears to be attractive online may not actually be as attractive as the current girl I'm seeing.
Okay.
Not that it matters entirely, but it does attribute to my attraction levels.
Pretend you're not with anybody at the moment, and say to me, what you go on a first date with somebody, what immediately makes you go, okay, no? Is it because she talked too much or talked too little?
If she talks about the current affairs of the now, or she talks about any general consensuses, anything that's mainstream. And I guess, yeah, if she talks little in that respect or doesn't have any depth to her, I'm completely bored. I got nothing to hold on to.
Okay. What if, even though she doesn't talk about issues very much, you can see how kind she is to everybody? Like, she notices that the waitress has was frowning and says, "I am so sorry that lady over there just yelled at you because that was not cool of her." She's like that, but she doesn't really talk about issues at all. That's not enough.
Yeah, I would find that, yeah, quite attractive, actually. Yeah. I would prefer that, definitely. If she did that, I would have respect for her.
Okay, would you rather have a partner with whom you could discuss politics or art?
Politics.
Okay. And did you have a strong opinion either way about the COVID policies that Australia implemented?
Not at all. My mum, who I believe is an ENFP, and my sister, who I believe to be an INFP, both had very strong opinions on it. My sister refused to get the vaccine. I had to convince my dad to get it because he's in his 60s, and I thought that he may be at risk. So I had to convince him to get it. But regardless of, I really didn't care anything. In fact, in Melbourne there was riots, and I remember watching the live stream and just finding the whole thing hilarious. But I never took offense to anything. I didn't feel like my rights were taken away from me. I just had no agenda whatsoever.
So does it not bother you to wear a mask at all? If you were asked to wear a mask, you'd just be like, whatever, I can wear it, it doesn't matter.
I wear it on certain occasions, like I used to, but then there'd be sometimes if I saw, there's a place in Australia, it's called Kmart. I guess it'd be like the equivalent of your, what's it called? The big shop that has it has everything basically. It's
Okay.
like you're all
like
one-stop,
Walmart or Target, or what we used to have Kmart too, but I don't know.
Right.
It may have been a different company, but it was like that kind of store too.
So I would wear my mask. So I wouldn't wear my mask in there, and then I was hoping that in doing so, I could then get into an argument with the worker at the front who checks your bags as you go in and out. I guess out. And just so I could say, oh, actually, I have asthma, and I'm not allowed to wear a mask. But not because I was against wearing it, just because I was bored.
Okay. So, but did that happen, or did people not really say anything to you?
It happened once, and then they asked me to leave, and so I was like, oh, okay, and I left.
All right. Did you feel satisfied when you left that you had done something or said something that needed to be said or whatever?
Yeah, because I guess I was just implying how dumb the rules were at this point. Because I don't know what America was like, but Australia, we had the rules stick around for a very long time, to the point where it was like, why is this even a thing? So at that point, I was like, I'm just going to make the joke and get out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. Los Angeles was, I would say, somewhere in the middle in terms of its overreaction. It wasn't as bad as Australia, or New York, but it was worse than a lot of other places. So, anyway, as far as just generally, it just felt really oppressive in terms of I have to remember this thing all the time.
Yeah, I remember I was using masks which were like 4 days old and had marks on them, and it was the only way that I could go into the shop. So I remember wearing this mask on. Fuck.
At the very, very end of the mask requirements for going to stores, I finally started saying, I'll just ask the store for a mask because
Yeah.
they usually have them on hand to give to people at that point. But then by the time I thought to do that, it was like there was a week left, and then they ended the requirement. So okay, so you talked about not having too much difficulty with resisting impulses for opportunism or opportunity exploitation. What about knowing when is a good chance or when you should take advantage of the opportunity to exploit? For example, I saw this old table somebody was throwing away when Rich and I were driving back here a while back, but I need something because I've rearranged this room. I was telling her before we even left, I want to find a table that we can put underneath this thing. But despite that, and despite seeing such a thing, I don't pull the trigger that quickly on shit like that. So I was like, and
Yeah.
I didn't get it. What's your relationship with opportunism?
Yeah, I do very little action. There's a lot of thoughts that go into my head, and I'll go, that would be like we have in Australia periods of the year where you can just throw rubbish or things that you don't want on the side of your lawn, and then you get a month, and then basically if no one picks up that stuff, the council come around and pick it up with a truck and take it away. And I remember driving past because I moved into a new apartment. I was like, all right, I need a side table. All right, so I drove past this one place. I saw these old side tables. I'm like, I might grab that. So I grabbed those, put them there, and then in theory it was going to add. I thought it was going to be really, really, really good and suit the room, but they were pretty old and they weren't sturdy. They were moving around, and so I ended up throwing them out. But that's a pretty poor example of I guess, taking action or.
Well, I mean, but it's actually a pretty good example because that's exactly what prevented me from getting that table. Is this knowledge that, without really thinking through why, although now I have, but at the time I had this thought like, well, Eric, you know how this goes. You find some trash, you pick it up, put it in your car, you take it home, and then you throw it away at home. You're just throwing it away.
Yeah.
So what I realized later is, I need to measure this and see if it was the right size and be more careful about that. But then rather just grab some random thing I see. But you did grab things and threw them away. At least then you got to try them out, right?
Yeah, but there's been plenty of times where I've just given up on that opportunity because I had the same thought process as that, which was, I just see this not working. And my dad, he's an engineer, and he's tested INTJ, and he's very much into like preparing things in advance. So he'll measure out the space, he'll do all his calculations beforehand, and then he'll go and find the thing which is going to fit exactly that. In fact, I have a story of exactly that which happened. Last week, our dog got bitten by our neighbor's dog, bastard thing, and it was on our front porch where there's like wooden planks, balustrades, and the dog had ripped into or bitten into part of the wooden plank, and so my dad needed to replace it. So he measured it out and did it to the exact measurement, and then he went to a tool shop, or I guess a wholesale place it's called Bunnings, and he went and bought the planks, came home, and then they fit exactly. He got them cut there and then, and they fit exactly to his measurements which he had. I wouldn't think that at all. In fact, I would have hired someone to do it for me.
Okay. Can you think of an example of a time when you spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to do something yourself, only to conclude after you had failed to do it, you should have asked somebody a long time ago?
Yes, I can actually. It's been many times. Let me think of one. Changing the oil in my car. So my dad taught
Changing the
my
what?
dad, The oil.
The oil?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
And my dad taught me when I was younger, like at 15 or something. And every time that I go to change it, I forget the steps and fail to do it. Or I just can't be bothered as well. So I always end up asking him to do it. And then he'll show me again, and then the next time when I think of doing it, I'm like, well, I'll just get him to do it, or just watch him do it again. I think now I've actually got to the point where I do know how to change the oil, but it's taken a very long time.
Okay. What is the proper number of steps to break changing the oil into?
He's going to stop me. When I said that I know how to change the oil, I still do it with his supervision, so I don't actually know the entire steps still. I can only he'll basically tell me, let's do another process. Let's choose something else for me to do step by steps.
Okay, sure. What is the proper number of steps for replacing your bicycle tires and inflating them, or the inner tube part?
Four, I guess.
Okay, what are they?
So you take the old tire off. So you have to obviously like flip it out, I guess, of its placement. Then you got to get the new one. You got to fit it on, and then you got to get the pump. Put the pump in the little nozzle thing, and then pump it up till it's sufficient that you pumped up.
Okay. Pretty solid. Do you find that when you read other people's explanations of why they have a given, say, affirmation or a given position on something, when you read or listen to them, that you often find them either, or are you more likely to find them inconsiderate of other people's differences, or more likely to find them dumb?
Dumb.
Okay. So, what's your relationship with receiving praise?
I don't really have a relationship with it. It doesn't feel like anything.
Okay.
When I won, I came third and second in a national title for bodybuilding, and after it, people were sending me messages and telling me how well I did and everything. And I remember thinking, because I know how other competitors are when they do well in a competition and they rave about it and talk about how good they were and everything. I remember just looking at the time that I've spent getting ready for the show and then placing well and having no real appreciation for the efforts that I put in. I just sort of went along with it.
Okay. What are you going to do later after this?
I don't know. Probably search up more about my type.
Okay. So, in general, would you say you prefer not to answer those kind of questions about what you're going to do later because it forces you to commit sooner than you otherwise would have to commit to what you're going to do? Or do you not like to plan it out because the kind of things you like to do aren't subject to planning?
The latter, yeah. So the things that I do plan for are based off my past experiences where I've figured out, okay, well, Harry has a tendency to do these things on every week, and so the likeliness of me doing them next week is quite likely. Therefore, I can plan for these things because in the past that's been what I've done. Whereas if it's something which I haven't done before, then it requires a lot more. There is a degree of just unwillingness to do it or plan for it, rather.
Okay. Would you self-identify as a nostalgic person?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Do you have any objects, physical objects, that you keep around just for nostalgic value?
Couple, yeah. When my brother got married, he gave me a um, pocket knife which had my name engraved on it. It's because I was part of the groomsmen, so I keep that. I keep my grandpa's hat. I keep numerous other items, but not really anything that I've like. I like to go back and so, for instance, I used to play this game called RuneScape, which is like a RPG or whatever they call it. And I haven't played it in so long, but every now and then I'll literally just log on just to sort of feel the nostalgic um, feeling of going back in time when I used to play with my brothers and that.
Okay. So, what seems more scary to you? The prospect of getting older and having it turn out that you feel as though you already had lived the best part of your life, or do you feel it's more scary the prospect that you would die too young and not have enough time to do all the things you had thought you were going to do?
Die too young.
Okay.
That's what pushes me to have a like. That's what pushes my health kick. That's why I transitioned to this way of living, because I was like, I have all these things and goals, not really goals as such, but I just know that I want to do lots of things. Therefore, it requires a certain amount of time to be able to fulfill those desires.
Okay. I've got a new invention, and I want you to come up with some names that are going to help it sell. Snappy marketing names. My new invention is it's a machine that you can insert any piece of currency into it, be it coin or bill, and it will clean off any sticky stuff that's on it. Now, my initial thought is basically I'm aiming at the Canadian marketplace because they always get maple syrup all over their money. But it would work with any kind of money, anything that's sticky.
All right. The Coke McCleaner.
Say it again.
The Coke McCleaner.
Okay.
Because when you put it in a Coke glass, it cleans the coin.
Okay.
But I don't know, do Canadians drink Pepsi?
I'm not sure. They
Hmm.
probably have both. Can you think of any other names for it?
Yeah, of course. The Shiny Whiny.
Okay. Can you tell me a story about a hot air balloon operator, a uh, a barn owl named Booter, and some quicksand?
Sorry, could you say that first part again?
Yes. Please tell me a story about a hot air balloon operator who gives people hot air balloon rides, a a um, what kind of animal did I say it was?
No.
An owl, right? A barn owl named Booter, and some quicksand.
So the owl's named Buddha, right?
Booter, right?
And does the hot air balloon driver, has he got a name?
Yeah, his name is Hoter Balloon. His parents really wanted him to become a hot air balloon rider, and their last name was Balloon to begin with, so they just named him Hotair, Hotair, one word.
Hater Balloon went up in his hot air balloon over the Amazon River and past an old farm where he found an owl misplaced. Down by the river called Gazelle.
You don't keep your owl there down by the river. You clearly misplaced it.
We don't have owls. We got what's our birds here? We got plenty of other birds, but
I was just making a joke because you said the owl was misplaced, which makes it sound like somebody put it away in the wrong drawer or something like that. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess he's gone down. He's found the misplaced owl, and he's then got to take this owl back on the hot air balloon back to the farm because he's found that the owl was holding a glass with a note in it that had the address of where it's actually from. And so he took the owl with him on the hot air balloon, and they went back up the river to the farm in which he's from.
Okay, cool. So, all right. Let's play World Mic Power. You've got World Mic Power. You got the microphone for 30 seconds. You get to say whatever you want. It gets broadcast into everybody's ears directly and translated into every language. What's your advice for the world?
We aren't that smart to look out for you and I, and together we can work and figure out our future.
Together, we can bring tomorrow today.
Pretty much. I don't actually believe that, but I like to think that if I had the microphone for 30 seconds, I would say something motivational, although I don't really care.
Right. But even though you aren't particularly, I guess, invested in other people's emotional responses to things, do you notice when they have an emotional response to things?
Oh, for sure. I get affected big time. That's how I realize that I for sure have extroverted feeling, because if I'm in a room and there's tenseness, I can feel that instantly. And it's more so that I look around and I see someone that is shows signs of them being sad or angry or upset. It does affect me. I try and do something about it. I took that test yesterday actually to figure out how well I knew facial. Is it facial recognition? It's that.
Yeah, I like facial displays of emotions. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So. Okay. I mean, I agree with you completely. That you have FE front stack, not FF front stack. I've been trying to narrow down between a couple of possible types here for this last stretch. But do you self-identify as somebody who knows first, decides first, acts first, or reacts first?
I don't know first and I don't react first. What's the other two, sorry?
Act and decide.
I decide.
Okay. And do you decide so that you can act, or do you act to make you might as well because you decided, but is deciding really the end in itself? What's more important? Do you decide to act, or do you act to decide?
I act to decide. Yeah, I can think of a few examples of where I've done that.
Can you give me one, if it's not too personal?
So recently I've decided that I want to try a different career out, except I realized that it may not be something which comes naturally to me. Therefore, I want to act on it first, see whether or not I like it, and decide after whether it's something that I want to continue doing.
Mm. So you're the kind of person who wants to get their hands dirty. In other words, you'll figure out how to do it by starting to do it, rather than by looking at all the instruction manual or something like that. Is that correct?
Oh, for sure. I never look at the instruction manuals.
Okay.
I've realized that it's probably wise to do so, but I'd rather figure it out myself.
Okay. So do you have an Instagram? An Instagram because are you telling me it's time or what?
No. So I look at this. I got this watch yesterday or the day before, and it's a Fitbit watch, and it has instructions. You got to like log in and sign up, and then you've got to put it. But I just realized that it's going to be pretty much the same as any other Bluetooth connection. So I didn't read the instructions or anything. I just started playing with the side of it, turned it on, and then logged on to it on my phone.
Right. Okay. I think Rachel, can I ask you to talk to him one more time and ask him about, let's say, how he determines whether or not Mia is important.
Okay.
I think I know. I think I have a good thought about what type he is, but we'll see if you end up. So ask some questions until you feel like you got some decent thoughts about it or whatever.
Okay. All right. So, how do you judge when something is important?
The aftermath of said adventure. So if I'm trying to, if there is a negative aftermath as a consequence of not doing it, then I'll classify it as important. And if it doesn't matter, if it's like meh, then I won't bother with it. And then if it's something which may result in a better outcome, then I might take action for that.
Okay, so what is your relationship with procrastination?
Oh, it's horrible. Yeah. It's off and on. There'll be periods of my life where I will be very studious and I'll go about my work and I'll get a lot of work done. But then if I say, for example, if I go out one weekend and have a weekend partying, not really partying really, but seeing a lot of friends and doing a lot of different things, it completely takes me off the rails. And it takes me a long time to get back onto that same process.
Yeah, I used to have the same problem. Yeah.
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 Maybe ask him about instances where he learned about something other than typology that he found applied to a lot of different things.
Okay. So, can you tell me a little about when you learned about a subject other than typology, but that kind of helped you learn a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, when I was competing in bodybuilding, the consequences of preparing for a bodybuilding competition basically is that you have to be on a strict diet regime. You have to be in bed at a certain time. You're in a box essentially because you're limited in your capacity of doing things, which and that was very much not suited for me. I needed to have freedom. I needed to have the ability to go out and eat a meal out every now and then if I wanted, or see some friends if I wanted, or just generally have the ability to do other things. And so, and because I was inside a lot of the time, and I need to be out amongst people. So I would sometimes just go to the shops just so I could see people, be around people, feel the energy of people. And that was something which made me realize that I'm definitely an extrovert, not an introvert. Yeah.
So you feed you get energy from other people, from being around other people.
Yeah, the noise and just the actions and just the general chaos of being out amongst on a Sunday morning where everyone's out and about with their families and there's just everything's going on.
So it's not even just like being with your friends, it's literally being around people who are around you. So it could be families, it could be just random people.
Oh yeah, I call it human behavior days, where I just go out to the shops, might have to run some errands, and then I use that as a time where I can just see, because I find that I'm often behind I don't keep in the know, basically. I don't always know what's going on, and so because I don't really watch the news that much, so I sometimes go out just to see what's going on about, and if there's any differences in society. Like it was big when the coronavirus was here. It's very entertaining.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I mean, the streets and there was no one even driving on the streets. It was crazy, really, like people just stayed inside. I'm so glad that it's just changing now that people are, going outside again and not wearing masks too, especially. I mean, I don't know how you feel about masks, but I'm not a huge fan of them.
Yeah.
Can you ask him if he has more clarity about what he likes or what he doesn't like?
Sure. What are some things that you like?
No,
What?
like what does he have more clarity about? What he likes or what he doesn't like?
Oh, what do you have more clarity about? What you like or what you don't like?
What I don't like.
You don't like.
Yeah.
You got some more
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
Let's talk briefly here and we'll resolve it. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna mute you here so I can talk to Rachel briefly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mute me. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna mute me. Great. You have any thoughts?
Well, definitely, I can't help but FE. Like, I definitely.
I'm not quite sure what to make of his TA results because he did. One of the questions he answered suggested to me it could be one or two, but some of his other answer didn't. I didn't really push really super hard on it.
Okay. One or two. So.
I'm thinking ESTP is what I'm thinking.
I was thinking ESTP too.
All right, very cool. Let's give it to him. Give him the verdict. Okay, we have a verdict for you. We believe you to be an ESTP.
I disagree.
Okay, what do you think you are?
I'm an ENTP.
Oh, you are definitely not an ENTP. I can assure you. Okay, then this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna play a because I had this other person who thinks she's an ENFP from earlier, right? I will do what I plan to do with her with you. Let's play Dungeons and Dragons. You choose you want to be the character first or the dungeon master first.
Dungeon Master.
Okay, here's my character. My character is a paladin who is mostly a fighter, but he's got extremely good skills at healing injuries as long as they aren't puncture wounds. Unfortunately, he's mostly encounters puncture wounds in his party going because, of course, people are getting stabbed by swords and spears and stuff. So that's my character. Okay, Dungeon Master, take me away to a land of magic.
And I have to describe the land of magic.
Yeah, so the Dungeon Master might say, okay, well, you approach an entrance to a dungeon near an old town in an area remarkable for its high number of dragons in the mountains, or something like that. And then you tell me what I see, or what, or give me a situation, and I'll say what I want to do in that situation.
Yeah.
And then we'll switch
Can I
roles.
first? Yeah, sorry. I'm happy to pay you again, by the way, just because we're going over time. But can I state why I disagree?
Sure, of course, absolutely, totally.
So I am absolutely terrible with my hands. I can't take a hammer to a nail. So I can't take a hammer to a nail. And I have terrible spatial awareness. I'm always running into things, and I definitely find that at least my understanding of extroverted sensing is that I've watched a few videos of Chase C.S. Joseph. I don't really agree with a lot of the things that he says. Hence why I found you, because I found you to be a lot more reliable.
Yeah, he's very wrong about many things.
Yeah, but he said that basically when you have extroverted sensing, you store your memory in objects. So when I look at something...
Oh my fucking god. I mean, what a ridiculous sentence, right? The only time I store my information in an object is when I store it as a file on my computer. It is not possible for my attention to store my knowledge of something outside of me in an object. It's fucking the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
It never made sense to me either.
No.
But yeah, and so when I watched your videos to do with extroverted sensing, they were a lot more along the lines of just, I mean, like I said before, about spatial awareness and.
But it's not. I'm not saying that. I may have used to have said that a long time ago, but what I think of extroverted sensing is now is simply it's a relationship with knowing how to manage opportunities and impacts. So people who have SE want, for example, if a discursive event isn't going like they want it to, let's say they're in a class and the teacher's talking to this person over here about this, and the ESTP is bored, the ESTP will take various actions to kick the anthill, even if it's just word actions, like ask a question that's relevant to the teacher, so the teacher gets off onto another track. And then when they get bored of that, they'll prompt it again. That's, even though they're using language, they're still prompting a change in the equilibrium, forcing everybody else to reset their frame of reference. So really, opportunism and follow-through and impacts are all linked, because it's like when you say, well, I have these opportunities to get on these chicks, but I don't do it because you have a sense that would be too impactful. Now, I also don't have any problem with things being, when things are too impactful, but you probably have a more robust relationship with recognizing when it is a good idea to get something, like to take advantage of an opportunity, because worst case scenario, you just end up throwing it away. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, okay. I remember one definition you had for it was the ability to basically do an action whilst, so I guess give an example would be like playing soccer, and you're kicking the ball whilst having the awareness of the people around you.
Okay, that is something I would say a long time ago. I would say take my videos more than about a year or two ago with a grain of salt or two. But the thing is, it is true that the relationship between two two or more objects in space and your sort of neutral attention, which is not viewing yourself as an object in space, that is extroverted sensing. But the thing is, in this analogy, what I was trying to draw a distinction between is extroverted sensing and introverted sensing. An introverted sensing dominant person, let's say they're going to play a soccer game, they're going to be aware of how much total energy they have to exert throughout the soccer game, and try to, when they have a chance to not run around but just to rest for a second, to try to take advantage of that and manage the exertion so that they utilize it wisely throughout the whole game rather than just being dead tired at the end, right? An SE person is going to ignore, SE down is going to ignore all that tiredness stuff, and it's instead going to be, they may end up still resting periodically and end up doing that, but it's going to be unconscious rather than conscious. What they're really doing is paying attention to everything else as though everything else is an object, but their own agency simply as agency.
Right. Okay. And as far as an ego is, because I definitely find myself thinking of the future and imagining the future and imagining certain situations in which I'm in, be it going on a holiday somewhere and I'm imagining the things that I'm going to do there, the experiences that I might have there, the people I'm going to meet there. Everything will be based off, my knowledge and understanding of that said area and what I predict to be the case when I do eventually go on that holiday.
Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, that's sort of extroverted intuition, I guess. Uh, like an ESTJ with extroverted intuition in the third slot, it mostly plays out as them anticipating how ordinality might render their current efforts bad or moot. Like, so an ESTJ will realize, no, before I start doing this, I need to make sure I've accounted for everything. Because I don't want to get to step 5 and then have to undo steps 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 because I skipped the actual first step or something. So they're very attentive like that with their extroverted intuition. What you're talking about is imagining what you might do or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what I call that, but extroverted intuition is much less useful than that. It's just like, I hate the idea of doing things in general because it's contraindicative of my dominant function still having the floor. Once we're done discussing things, well, then I could give a fuck what happens. It's like, the fact that we're done discussing things is the problem here. You guys should not be doing things like taking action over there.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah. So, when I was watching some of your past typing videos and you asked questions along the line as, okay, well, can you make up a rhyme, make up a poem or something? I would stop the video and then I would try and make up a rhyme or poem. And I thought I did that quite well. So I thought, well, I guess that shows signs of NE, but...
Okay, so let's play trading off lines. Okay, so we'll do AABB rhyming. So I guess I'll establish the rhyme and you come up with the rhyming line. Okay, so we're gonna make up a poem on the fly. It starts like this: to start a healthy fire, use a lighter.
And then I would say, so can you continue what you would say to that? And
Sure. Just flick the flint as though you were a fighter. And then the next line would start a new rhyme.
okay.
So the next line would be, you'll soon see flames a-licking high.
Turning into a mighty fire.
Okay. When elephants came dancing around the corner,
They came twirling with their daughters.
okay. Let's say you walk out of your house, you see a guy. He's got a chicken standing on one of his shoulders, and he's holding an iguana in his other hand, and he's giving it a very stern talking to. What are possible reasons why this is occurring?
Iguana, did you say?
Mm-hmm. Apparently a naughty iguana because he's getting a stern scolding.
And what's on the shoulder again?
A chicken.
A chicken.
It's barking quietly.
Now you listen here, Goanna. Next time you come near this chicken, and I'll have you down the fire.
Okay, except in this instance, I just shifted gears on you abruptly. What I'm looking for is simply possible reasons why this guy is like downtown, near the mall, standing by his car. Maybe you're not sure it's his car, but he's got a chicken on one shoulder and scolding his iguana. Why is this occurring?
Well, they were down in the parking lot, and this goanna came out of the underneath of his car, while his chicken was getting in out of the car, and so he picked up the goanna and gave it a talk.
Okay, so in other words, because it was in his way or something is one reason, right?
Yeah.
All right, what's other possible reasons why this guy could be doing this?
Because they're going into the shopping center and they both have to behave. And so he's already told the chicken to behave, and the chicken's behaved and sat nicely on his shoulder. The goanna is playing up, and so he's giving it a talking to make sure that they're both behaving.
Okay. How is the iguana acting up exactly? Like what does iguana bad behavior look like?
Sticking his tongue out and just like looking around. He's just like sticking his tongue out.
Okay, so now I'm going to answer that question in a way that I would say is suggestive of dominant or second slot any. And it would be like this. Well, it could be that he is trying to build up his own courage to get a refund from the bookstore, so he's practicing on the iguana. It could be that he feels as though the iguana has hurt the chicken's feelings, and that's why he's scolding it. Or it could be that the man believes the chicken is whispering into his ear with its quiet balkings that, in fact, the iguana is a sociopath and a serial killer, and that's why he's getting a scolding. Now, on the other hand, it could be that what looks like a scolding is actually one of those lovable dog scoldings where you go, "You rascal, you!" And in fact, he's really enthused about the iguana because the iguana just caught the chicken's egg as she laid it with its little iguana paw. It jumped out and grabbed it, otherwise it would have crashed to the ground and broken. And so he's giving him one of those kind of enthusiastic, positive scoldings. Or it could be, in fact, that the iguana scolding him, but the iguana is a puppeteer, and he's got his little iguana hand up the guy's butt, moving his mouth. He's a ventriloquist.
And then he goes to him and says, "We're going to meet your brother today, so you better be on your best behavior." And they go down to the pet store and look for another goanna.
Okay, so I guess it could be a reason he's doing this is because he's giving the guy a heads up. Hey, we're going to go get you another iguana as a friend or a sibling. You have to play along and pretend you guys are blood relatives. Okay, so what are possible reasons why Canada should invade Greenland?
They're both cold countries, and Canada.
All right, well, how many categories of reasons can you think of? Just spit those out first.
All right. They're nearby countries, and I'm sorry, my geography is pretty bad, but
So proximity, that's one category, I guess, of
the temperature, the fact that both speak a variety of different languages, so they would endorse a multicultural country as one. That that Canada likely has the US as support as well, so there is possibility that they look after each other. That they can create a larger nation, that they can take over the world by working together with the other nations and create a world domination. That
Okay, all right, fine. So can you give me, please, 4 words? Then I'm going to demo something. I'm going to give you 4 words and have you demo it back, okay? So give me 4 words. Any 4 words.
do they have to be just completely different words, whatever I like?
Just any 4 words, yep.
All right, James, I, like the eye, swamp, and stove.
James, I, swamp, and stove. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just writing this down.
That's right.
Okay. So, let's see. There was a handsome gentleman named James who lived right beside England's famous Thames River. Fucking. Hold on. I lost my window that I had open when I had those things written down. There's 4 words. Because it's like I'm doing resource hoggy stuff right now, so it's really super slow. What the hell? Oh, it is on this one. I get it. Never mind. I see what the problem is. I forgot I put it at the bottom of this window. There we go. Okay. There was a very handsome man named James who lived right next to England's favorite Thames. He'd go down there in evenings to look out for things he'd see that might be floated about. He'd eye these things, and they floated in the river and made their way down towards a distant swamp. But when he went inside and ordered liver, he got a plate of entrails from his aunt. She'd been at work all day upon the stove, cooking, slaving, chopping, cooking now. And when he came back home from above, he learned that every animal is a cow. Okay, so I took 4 words and made a full poem with all 4 of the words incorporated. Hi, Dad.
You want some cantaloupe?
Sure, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks. Okay, so here's your 4 words. Penny, tomato, eagerly, and vacuum.
Penny lived in an old town known for the ripe tomatoes. She came around to Dave's house to show him her potatoes. These
are my potatoes. Go ahead, sorry.
He realized they were tomatoes and told Penny about Hang on a second, let me.
Okay. While you're thinking about that for a second, I'll find what I did with my cup of coffee. Wish I once again sat down somewhere. Let's see if this beer. Okay.
Yeah. So I said, and he told her about those boys who stood eagerly at his door, only to realize that Penny saw about the vacuum he stole. It's not very good. This is a rather terrible example. I made a really good rhyme about C.S. Joseph, if you'd like to hear it.
Sure.
Harry is a guy who likes MBTI. He realized that behind those shady eyes were a bunch of lies. It was only till you and I came together and discussed TI that, in fact, C.S. Joseph was a lie.
Okay. Okay. Pretty good. Not too bad.
I put my bum. I put my bum in the sun because my bum was numb.
Okay. What do you think? Talk to me about the meaning of the word truth.
Truth.
Yeah, what does it mean to you?
It's the combination of it's our reality. It's a position which we've come to due to the experience which we are all which we can all acknowledge as being absolute. So gravity we can consider the truth because, well, we're on Earth, so therefore gravity exists.
Okay. Do you think that you trust your experience more or your instincts more? Thank you, Dad.
My instincts.
Okay. Can you give me an example of a time when your experience said one thing, your instincts said another, you trusted your instincts and were glad you did, or you trusted your experience and regretted it, or something like that?
Well, yeah. So I trusted my instincts. So there's this roundabout near my house. Sorry, it's not a roundabout. It's a road which goes around, and it's very narrow. And I usually will go around. I will usually just drive around it, however means possible, staying on my side of the lane. There was a time where I could hear a noise, and so I went further along the line instead of just where I usually go, because I was like, there might be a car that's coming around at a high speed. So I went further across to my side of the lane and avoided the crash, which could have never really happened.
Okay. So, can you think of an example of a time when you thought your experience was informative, but it turned out your instinct said later on, no, I shouldn't have trusted my experience?
Yeah, I was driving with my phone and I was answering a message, and my instincts was telling me Harry, you should not be driving with your phone. And I said, well, I haven't had a crash yet with my phone, using my phone, therefore, it should be all right. That was my instincts, or my reaction to my instincts. And instead, I slammed up the back of the car, and it was because I was on my phone, so I should have trusted my instincts.
We're saying what exactly?
Sorry?
So, what were your instincts telling you?
My instincts were telling me that I shouldn't drive with my phone. I sometimes will answer a phone call, which I consider to be fine, but
You're trying to text while you're driving. It's a pain in the ass. Yeah. Okay. So I see. And you nevertheless completed your text.
No, I didn't. I hit the car.
Oh, you crashed.
Yeah.
Okay. I knew I was missing some piece of this. So, did you say to yourself, let me just finish this text. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Boom, like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Have you had other car crashes besides that one ever?
Yeah, I had one when I first got my driver's license, and it was the same thing around the backside of someone. I wasn't using my phone then, but I was just talking to someone, and I was looking at them while I was saying something, and then I hit the car.
Okay. So, can you talk to me about a time when that occurred regarding something that has no physical element to it? So, like, I trusted my instincts. I trusted my experience with M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong because I really liked The Sixth Sense. But then I saw The Last Airbender and it was terrible. Something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So an example of where I trusted my instincts about doing something, or
Well, no, about the quality of something. So I expected this to be a good product because Smithington's product factory has always served me well in the past. But this time I must have gotten a dud because it was very shitty.
yeah, okay. Um, yeah, okay. So I go to this chicken shop quite regularly, and I always expect them to give me a knife and fork. And so I had instincts that they were going to give me a knife and fork with my takeaway, and I went to go take it down to the beach to eat it, and I had no knife and fork. So I realized then that I probably have to check that they give me a knife and fork.
When you got down there and you realized you didn't have one, you go, "Oh my god, this sucks so much ass."
A little bit, and then I just ate it with my hands. And I left a review on their page and never went back.
Wow, that's tough. You're a tough cookie. You're a tough customer. Okay. Can you tell me what is the most important medium? Like, for example, is it videos? Is it music? Is it writing? Is it dance? Is it something like that?
Music.
Okay. And how much of your time do you spend listening to music you already know versus finding new music?
I probably listen to new music majority of the time, but I will listen to nostalgic old music quite often as well. So it'll be both. I switch between them. And then I'll try and find new artists through the similar genre. But yeah, I don't ever look for I don't go onto top 100 and search, the best music or R&B or whatnot. I just try and find it myself.
Okay, so Can you explain to me why music is the most important?
It's a medium that's historical. It's been around for forever since we were able to have expressions of verbal language or be able to bang wood on things. So it's got a lot of history to it, and it puts us all into a good mood. So it's an innate experience which is almost primal, I would say. It's just like you hear drums, it's like people get into the mood. It's a sign of war, maybe, or it's just got so much history to it, and it's something which we can continuously rely on to give us a good experience.
Okay. Well, that second reason you gave there is different, but the first reason about history of the thing, isn't it the case that like cave drawings have probably been around about as long as music, or do you think music predates cave drawings even?
Yeah, but I think they're two different mediums. So cave drawing is probably more story written, creating a story. Music can be that as well, but it's more of a self-expression rather than trying to educate or keep people in the know.
Okay, so is it the most important because it's the most evocative of emotions? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's a self-expression, and it's so individual. I mean, like you guys were saying in your last live stream, it still has to follow a certain criteria for it to be good music. But generally speaking, it's got its own. It's an individual expression.
Okay. But, I mean, do you find that... Okay, so do you find that you know right away how much you like or respect a song? Or that it takes you a few listens to figure that out?
Yeah, I can know within... Yeah. I follow, like, I guess, some main genres of music. And then within that, if I find a song which doesn't fit my idea of a good song or music, then I'll just switch it up. Sometimes I'll drive, and if I don't like a song, I'll just change it. I won't listen to the whole song, obviously.
Okay. Do you ever make videos of yourself talking about things?
No, but I talk in the car a lot by myself.
Okay.
I would like to make videos of talking, but it's just a barrier to entry. I find that I just fear that people aren't going to appreciate what I have to say.
Okay. So, when you encounter something like a YouTube video that makes you mad, it makes you go, "Oh, that person who made this YouTube video, ooh, yeah." What about it has made you mad?
Usually, it's due to their ignorance, and they just don't know what they're talking about. That's partially rather the reason that I'm not going to talk on something unless I'm well educated in that realm. And so when I hear people just like the MBTI is a great example. The amount of bullshit that's out there, people yapping about this, that, and the other, and it's like I'll listen to some lady talk about whatever type it may be, and they give examples, and they're the most textbook examples of like what the MBTI claims this to be, and it's just regurgitated bullshit, and that will piss me off. But I will mostly laugh at the fact that people are commenting that they enjoyed the video and that they found it much helpful in their pursuit of knowing their type, even though it has no real, very little evidence to show that.
Yeah, well, those people who like that and maybe leave comments are probably watching it for the purpose of hearing something positive said about their type so they can feel good about themselves.
I hate that. That's the worst.
Yeah, it's like, what a waste of
That's
time to
why-
watch that,
yeah, I. That's what drove me towards your channel, because, I mean, there was my first impression was like, is this guy serious? And then I was like, actually, you know what? He knows what he's talking about, and uh, his explanations are far more accurate than anyone else I've heard.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate you saying so.
Yeah, and the fact that you do it on the fly as well as, I think, like what you'd say about Chase, how he just completely relies on past uh, stories, and he keeps replaying the same stories over and over again. It's just like, there's no way you have extroverted intuition, because you're not making up these on the fly.
He probably has it in third slot, which it's like ESTJs will tell you their same stories over and over again. They may
Right.
they may preface it with, "I know I've told you this before, but," before telling you again, which is really weird thing to do because it's like that's how unconscious their FE is. Even when they their unconscious FE causes them to say something that's extremely FE attentive in that fashion, it doesn't actually change their behavior at all.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean that's like that repeating anecdotes and or like little ways of expressing things. That's a SI 1 or 2 thing. My mom had a whole repertoire of little sayings she'd always bust out in the context. Every time it was cold, she'd say meow. Every time it was hot, she'd say meow. Every time she was hungry, she'd say meow. That's SI for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the thing is, I do still think you're an ESTP, and I don't blame you for maintaining some skepticism about that. It's not like I demonstrated a dramatically greater capacity at the kind of things I was using as tests anyway than you did. But well, put it this way: if you do end up concluding you're an ENTP, despite me saying I think you're an ESTP, you're in good company. You're in the same company with my daughter, who I tell her she's an ESTP and she thinks she's an ENTP. So
Well, I don't associate myself with, like, I'm not I don't desire money whatsoever. And I think, like, I drive a Toyota Camry. I don't have expensive things. I've always been quite a minimalistic person. I just buy things whether I like it or not. I don't buy it, to try and impress people. And I think I can understand why I might give the impression
that
of
is
being
not SE, okay? That is not SE.
okay.
You know,
Yeah, I thought it might be more.
it is true that one way you can take an SE form of action is to make a purchase of some kind. And that becomes a thing if you have SE in the 4th slot. So, it's like if Rachel's feeling fussy, she might buy something from online. If I'm feeling fussy, I might go, yeah, I'm going to eat these drugs. Yeah. Or alternately, if I'm really feeling fussy, I'm going, fuck it, I'm going to go play poker.
Yeah.
So we all have our little things that we do, but your relationship with extroverted sensing is more robust than 4th slot. And besides, even people with 4th slot, they don't do it because they like fancy, expensive things. It's like if you're an NI dom and you're stuck in your knowledge function all the time, pulling the trigger is inherently satisfying. Okay, because like if you're going through a world where you have to know everything perfectly well enough to justify pulling the trigger, and you're missing some pieces of the puzzle, then when you do have the ability to clearly pull the trigger on something, like I'm going to buy this thing from the internet, then it gives a little satisfying thing. Whereas for me, I hate buying things except for shit that I consume.
Yeah. Yeah.
Regardless, SE doesn't link that strongly to buying stuff. It mostly links to a person's relationship with task completion and opportunism.
I'm terrible at completing tasks. have started so many things and never finished it, or very few have I finished.
Okay, can you tell me some of the things, some of your projects that you started and left unfinished?
So because because I train quite often and I'm a past bodybuilder, I have a lot of people that come up and ask me for diet advice and create maybe a program for them. And so I would write programs for people sometimes and give them guidance and whatnot, and they would pay me in advance for it. But there would be times when they'd ask me, and I'd be like, "Okay, well, yeah, you just pay me when I finish it for you." And then I'll never finish it because I didn't like doing it, because it's like full of Excel spreadsheets and it's just a nuisance having to collect all the data and then put it together. It's just I don't like doing it. And so those are some things that I don't finish. I've started.
I would point out the following about that. That you told them not to pay you yet, and that would suggest that to some extent you had an awareness that you might not do it.
Yes.
Okay.
And there have been other things like when so there's been in my younger years when I didn't know what I was going to do, I was starting these courses, and some of them I actually paid for in advance, and I've never even completed them because I was like, I tried this and I don't really like it, so I'll give that up. And then, or I'll do something and then I'll be halfway through it, and I'll be like, okay, well, I can just finish that later, and I'd start something else. Yeah, I mean, there's countless examples. People, some people will be like, oh, Harry said he was going to do this, and he told me he was going to do this, and then I just come up with an excuse as to why I didn't do it, or why I didn't finish it.
Okay. So, I mean, I agree that sounds somewhat okay. It sounds a little bit like a backslot relationship with SE, but well, I mean, the thing is, I still don't think you're an ENTP, but I don't know if I can win the argument exactly. Because, of course, the problem is ESTPs and ENTPs both have a very untestable or not, if you're torn between those two, is not useful anyway, polar function. So even if I could have a definitive FI polar test, I would still leave us where we are, which is your ESTP or ENTP. So that's one reason why, though, it's hard to nail that distinction down, is because ENTPs and ESTPs, neither of them test badly on anything. We don't necessarily test great on everything, but we don't test badly on anything, and we are able to self-report metacognitive events pretty effectively. Both types are. So the thing is, of course, most smart, interested in abstraction ESTPs are going to conclude their ENTPs. Pretty much every single one will, because two reasons. One, ENTP type descriptions are all polished to a ridiculously stultifying shine, and ESTPs are reduced to dumb jocks. So, because of those type descriptions, knowing yourself with the disinterested calculus, you're smart and capable of understanding what's correct very well. So you're going to not really identify with the ESTP type descriptions. But the thing is, all the stuff that we've talked about here, the execution of the extrovert intuition from you is just fundamentally more concrete than than it is from me, and about more. In other words, you're using it within a frame rather than as the frame. It seems to me.
Yeah, I can get on board with that idea as well, and I think I'm not truly to I don't identify with any type as such. I don't feel as if it matters a great deal, apart from maybe understanding myself and my tendencies a bit more. But Yeah, I think when it comes to my overall lifestyle, it's much more sporadic and open-ended uh, than that of maybe a more controlled type. Which I think would you say that ESTP is more of a controlled type than ENTP?
No, fuck no.
No, okay,
No way in hell. It's like
yeah,
me and my friend Taylor, right? We'd be hanging out, we'd be partying, you know? We'd be partying up some fucking mad hot rails. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever hot railed any meth before, but let me tell you, that's a real rush. Anyhow, he got himself busted, right? So I'm like, don't worry, I got the perfect legal argument for you. I fucking spun out this brilliant case. Then what did he do? He goes and gets his ass busted again and ruins my whole fucking legal argument by getting a second bust before he got tried for the first one. So, can you stop that changing things already with your actions? Is what I thought.
yeah, yeah. When my dog got bitten the other week, I went off at the neighbors, and the mom came around and said, your son shouldn't go off at neighbors, and shouldn't have gone off that way. And then I got into an argument with her, basically saying these are German Shepherd, what were they? German Shepherd cross staffies, and I was like, your dogs are much more likely to cause severe harm to an animal or person than my dog, who's a field spaniel. And I was able to argue her into a point where she ended up having to pay for her dog bills and vet bills, and told her never to speak to me again and whatnot. But yeah.
So she's gonna pay your vet bills? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so I convinced her to pay my vet bills.
Well, that's
and
pretty good. That's
I
a pretty
convinced
effective. That's a pretty effective conversation.
It was, yeah. Yeah. And they're building a fence as well, so the dogs can't get out.
Did you know going into the conversation that you wanted her to pay the vet bills? Is that why you were having the conversation?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that was my goal at the end. It was like, okay, well, I know this dog's going to need stitches, and now, I'm obviously want to be, yeah.
Okay. I probably wouldn't want to. I'd probably maneuver the exchange away from any issue of financial liability, because I wouldn't want her to offer to pay for the thing, because then she'd regain more moral high ground.
No, that's why the cops got involved, and so when the cops were involved, she was basically her arm was bent to doing so.
So did the cops just stand there and say, "Okay, you two figure this shit out," or did they say separate you and ask each of you separate questions, or what?
They asked us separate questions, and then I basically I was in my pajamas when it happened, and and so when I ran over there and went off at the next door neighbor, I came back inside, I got changed, and because my mum was calling the cops, and when the cops came, I got all dressed up, so had my hair done and whatnot, so I could have a good impression over the cops and be like, I'm just a civil citizen, just
minding my own business in my tuxedo here with my coat and tails.
Literally, exactly, yeah. But you know what? Because I'm like, when I compare myself to you, like, you obviously are a language expert. And it's funny, in Australia, we do not value language in any regard compared to Americans. Like, our schooling system, Australia, we try and shorten as many words as we can to make it so that we can explain things or have a conversation in less effort, basically.
I see.
And so I think, nurture-wise, I think growing up, I have not been able to really make use of possibly the functions that come more naturally to me, based on my surroundings and
That's
the environment.
ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. Because the thing is, like, it's not like there were that I represented any kind of normal for as a kid for around me either. It's like the reason I became so facile with language is mostly because I spent my entire childhood reading Swords and Dragons books underneath my desk at school. So I got a very clear and good sense of a writing voice, and then doing debate as well helped somewhat. But by and large, I was always like this, always very, very verbal and imagination oriented, and much more so than anybody else I knew. Like I was, everybody who encountered me throughout my schooling that had any linkage to language stuff said like, "Oh, you write really well," or "Oh, you whatever," right? So it was always like that since I was a little kid, even. But I mean, it is true that your circumstances and the nurture might impact the way that your extrovert intuition displays a certain amount. But it just seems to me that you've got front stack NI in that you do a lot less of this sort of. On the other hand, it could be yeah. On the other hand, it could be yeah. On the other hand, it could be yeah. You know, it's like if you really think about it, like Obama's an EHP, right? And he always would give these speeches like, now, on one hand, we have enough resources to be the most prosperous nation in the world. And on the other hand, we have a responsibility to those among us who are least prosperous to provide for them. On the one hand, we have got the most strongest military in the world. And on the other hand, the most urgent responsibility for diplomacy. On the one hand, he's just going to go on and on like that forever. Because he's standing there ideating out all the possible things he thinks need to be said to inform the issue.
I did that with MBTI. So, for example, I was like, okay, well, here's an argument for me being an ENFP because maybe that's more likely that I'm an ENFP because my mum is an ENFP. But my dad's an INTJ, so maybe that has to play a role in the way that I also think. So, but it could be possible that my nurture is also different. So therefore, you know, I mean, I go on and on. I went through probably 6 or 7 different types.
I mean, that sounds like SI fifth a lot more than NI fifth. Because I didn't go through any types at all. The first time I read a type description of an EHP, I knew immediately I'm definitely that type. I don't even need to know anything else. I'm for sure that. And then, of course, I tested it as well. But I didn't even know about cognitive functions at the time. What am I getting up to find? My cigarettes. Hold on one second. What did I fucking do with my cigarettes? They're always leaving shit close. Outside.
They're outside?
Yeah.
At least you remember they were outside.
So when I also apply this to my training as well, I could think of 75 different ways of possibly creating a program or creating a system of training, which could all be valid in some regard. I do this on the fly. I'll just think of, okay, well, if I had said person who is in this position, who had a sedentary job, and so forth and so forth, I would just create endless possibilities. And
I just that's not. It's like that's not extroverted intuition. What you're doing is being an executive. You're saying here are possibilities within a frame. You're saying here's the frame. It's not moving. And here are the possibilities. Expert intuition goes, okay, here's the frame for person X, and here are all the other possible frames through which I might engage person X. I'm obviously being very instrumental in my impacting them in some regard because I'm considering, in this instance, how my instructions regarding their diet is going to impact their mya. But why exactly am I approaching anything through that kind of solvency frame, and what other frames might I approach them through, and why is that linked to whatever? It's like all that kind of stuff is, I mean, I don't know, also making jokes all the time and shit. Like, I don't know how universal that is among ENTPs. Jeffrey doesn't seem to make very many jokes, but it's not just the N stuff, which is like the abstract philosophy shit. It's not just the TI stuff, which is the fact that that's logically correct rather than wrong, but it's also the FE kind of NE, which is making a bunch of jokes and liking to perform in front of people and stuff like that. I don't know if you got those things, you self-identify as those or not.
I do it all the time, yeah. But
Okay.
I mean, look, I'm playing devil's advocate because I actually do agree with the way that you describe the answering or asking questions in a classroom. I can actually remember during high school me doing that exact thing.
Huh.
So I was playing devil advocate, but I just wanted to be more sure. I
Yeah,
think you make
sure.
it.
No, I'm glad you did play devil's advocate, and I'm glad because I actually feel more certain about it than I did when before you started playing devil's advocate. But even if you caused uncertainty, I don't like being wrong. So
Yeah. And you, what's that test where you do the two? That is it the Inky Pinky test, but it's like several different words. I was absolutely horrible at that.
I'm glad you said that because I was going to say, look, okay, let me do Anky Pinky because that's the hardest of my NE test, and then I guess I got distracted by something and forgot about it.
No, yeah. So that you definitely made a case, and yeah, I would say that you're definitely correct.
If I'm right about it, and I'm pretty sure I am, then it would also be the case though that while I have the edge in Inky Pinky, ESTP has the edge in Sudoku, as far as I can tell. Like my daughter always kicks my ass in finishing those fucking things.
I played Sudoku for the first time with you, or I was watching your video. I was trying to do it at the same time, and I had completed 3 squares in the time that you had completed the first 2, I think.
Okay, so you're a little faster than me. Yeah, that's because you're using NI consciously, so you don't need to parse out and ideate out all of your knowings in the way that EHP does.
Yeah, and I think so. How much does parents parents type play a role in determining your type?
As far as I can tell, not at all.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. I was thinking because my daughter's got extroverted sensing in his 3rd slot, so there's a likeliness that.
I mean, I've typed the whole family one time where both the parents were SI as hell. No, I think it was like this. Both parents were SI as hell, and both the kids were SI polar. Like, so who knows why it's like that? The thing is, my mom was ISFJ, my dad's ESTJ, but I'm ENTP. So in some sense, you could say, well, I split the difference between my mom and my dad because I got NE and SI. But my mom had that. I have the same functions as my mom. Where did the FI go? If there was, it's not like recessive and dominant genes or something like that. It would be nice if it were like that. That'd be super convenient, but it's not like that.
So listen, I feel as if I want to actually have an impact with typology now, and I want to be in the pursuit of actually finding the actual truth, or at least expressing the truth and ruffling some feathers as well of other people, YouTubers who just don't know shit. So I obviously have to do a lot more research myself to be confident in doing that. But at some stage, I'd like to propose a video that I might make and send it to you. Maybe you can put it on your channel.
Of course, sure. Absolutely, no problem. So I'm going to stop this recording now. Are you comfortable with me publishing this? Or do you want
maybe. Do you need to post the whole thing? I don't mind if you do, but
I mean, normally I just stop it and just upload the whole thing right now, and just.
Oh yeah, you can do that. Yeah, that's fine.
Cool.
And I'll pay you again for the extra hour.
No, don't worry about that. That's fine. This took a while to get down to it. I usually go over.